Part 75. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Bulletin Chigwa. Chapter 745. In the courtyard. An old lady with a cat face looked like a wild cat, hanging halfway on the door leading to the atrium. His eyes were green and shiny, his teeth were extremely sharp, and there was still some unknown biological tissue left in the gaps between his teeth. Flesh. As he opened his mouth, blood flowed down the river. She seemed to be wandering around the front door of the courtyard, blocking intruders from entering. And the other party's terror level has suddenly reached the top Ghost King. This is indeed an unusual thing. Even in the huge imperial capital of Qing Kingdom, the top Ghost King is the strongest among the strong. In the outside world, it is already a high-end version of the boss in a 4-star supernatural land. Even if it is placed in a 5-star supernatural land, the top Ghost King does not count. Common. Logically speaking, a fierce ghost of this level should be supervised by King Guo. However, the reality is that the cat-faced old lady in front of him is already a top Ghost King, but she is not on the supervision list of the Imperial Guard at all, otherwise she would not let the other party kill people wantonly here. The only possibility is that the opponent's terror level has only increased recently. Think of this. Shen Jian's eyes moved slightly. A possibility came to mind. Thinking. The 13th prince had also hid behind Shen Jian. Seeing the vague disgust in Shen Jian's eyes, his little self-esteem seemed to have been frustrated. His face turned red and he said, "Teacher, 30 years to the east of the river, 30 years to the west of the river, don't bully a young man into being poor. I am young now, when I grow up a few years, I will take care of her with one hand." Shen Jian patted the back of his head and cursed, 3 days is too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Don't say you were taught by me in the future. I can't afford to embarrass this person. But, my mother often said that when getting along with others, you must be generous. Don't just rely on your status to bully others with your power. You must give in when you are justified. The 13th prince muttered softly. Do you listen to your mother, or do you listen to me? You have to fight for 3 points even if you are unreasonable. What's more, the other party violated the laws of the Qing kingdom first. Why should you spare someone if you are unreasonable? Shen Jian sneered. Not to mention that the purpose of his coming here is to be a villain. Even if he is not, according to the laws of Qing dynasty, a top Ghost King like the cat-faced old lady who is not recorded in the book and kills people wantonly in the imperial capital is the target of everyone's beating. If you catch the opponent, you can even claim the reward. With both emotion and reason taking over, even if the 13th prince now calls the imperial guards to act as a dandy to take advantage of the situation and step on the opponent's face to take revenge, it still won't go wrong. 13th prince. He looked at Shen Jian blankly. Is this really what a teacher should say? Aren't you afraid that he will really become that kind of playboy who has royal status but no ability? Teacher, you seem to have some incorrect views. The 13th prince said weakly. Although he is a ghost, ghosts also talk about 3 views and values. Someone like Shen Jian can be said to have incorrect views. At least compared to what his mother told him, Shen Jian's remarks were contrary to his mother's. Kill the others, then my 3 views will be correct. A strange smile appeared on Shen Jian's face. His eyes fell on the cat-faced old lady, beckoning, hey, come here quickly, I have good food for you here. Cat-faced old lady? The aura of terror around her stagnated. You suck at your mother. Do you think I'm a pug and come when I bark? Damn it. Not only do you look down on people, you're also humming blind. How do I have anything to do with a dog? Can't you see that I have a cat face? Her face darkened. Very bad for this young man's senses. This guy is not a good guy. The other side. Seeing that the cat-faced old lady didn't come over, Shen Jian took out a ghost hand from his body. It was the hand of the ghost-level flower demon that he used as a sacrifice in the ceremony to call the fox fairy. It is the real body of ghosts and gods. Did you see it? The white meat is tender and juicy, with the aroma of various plants. Once you take one bite, your mouth will be full of mellow aroma and the oil will be translucent. Don't you want to take a bite? Shen Jian said with a smile. Hold the ghost hand in your hand and shake it at will. See this. The cat-faced old lady's pair of green cat eyes straightened up immediately. The cat eyes widened and almost stood out, as if they were about to pop out. She stared at the ghost hand in Shen Jian's hand, salivating. The 13th prince, who was hiding behind Shen Jian, also had a twitching look on his face. This description made him want to take a bite. Anyone can see that this white and smooth ghost hand is a real good thing. Even if it is only part of it, its essence can be seen through this part. This is definitely a residual limb above the level of a ghost or god. Eating it is undoubtedly the most wasteful way. If it is handed over to be controlled by a ghost below the ghost god level, even if the only ghost it controls is a ghost king, it can suddenly become a top-notch ghost king that is infinitely close to the ghost god level. Few ghosts can endure this kind of temptation. That's what I thought. As expected, the cat-faced old lady could no longer control her inner urges, and she roared angrily. It's delicious. It's delicious. Give it to me quickly. She moves extremely fast, flying over walls and walls, like a nimble ghost cat. The 13th prince looked solemn. The voice said quickly, Teacher, in the secret Sihaiwan ghost story, this cat-faced old lady is a vicious old lady who is greedy for petty gains and allows her daughter-in-law to be taken advantage of by other men and even insulted for a little profit. The image and level of terror are only at the level of a ghost king. But for some reason, she turned into a top ghost king. There is a problem in this courtyard. To be on the safe side, it is best not to give her a chance to get close to her, and directly use her supernatural power to kill her remotely. The words have not yet finished. The 13th prince saw Shen Jian grabbing the cat-faced old lady's neck and removing her limbs and head. At the same time, he didn't forget to turn around and ask, What did you just say? 13th prince. I don't want to say anything. As long as you are happy. Only then did he realize that the man in front of him was the teacher his mother had found for him, and the level of terror had reached an unfathomable level. Especially the ghost realm banishment and ghost realm restart taught him by the other party are even more unexplainable and supernatural. Even if ghosts and gods come, I'm afraid they won't be able to get any benefits. The one who should be worried should be the cat-faced old lady. At the same time, Shen Jian grabbed the cat-faced old lady's head and started walking towards the atrium. This courtyard house is not small, and one can only reach the house through the atrium. Along the way, it was very quiet. Dry bones can be seen everywhere on the ground. I don't know how many people have been here and how many people have died here. Go through the atrium. The trance is fleeting. Shen Jian took a look with interest. This is another layer of ghost land. He may know why this place has not been discovered by the guards for so long. When you step into the courtyard, you enter a ghost realm. Passing through the atrium, another layer is superimposed on the first layer of ghost realm. Going forward, I'm afraid it will be the same. In this case, it would be difficult to see through this matryoshka-like disguise unless there was clear intelligence or a ghost-level guard leader investigating. And this also just shows that the owner of this courtyard has a guilty conscience and needs to hide something through layers of disguise. This person is the queen's maid in the prophetic text on the parchment. Combined with the inexplicable promotion of the cat-faced old lady from the ghost king to the top ghost king, the compensation that the maid received at that time was so generous that it made people greedy. Even if she hadn't been searched at that time, I'm afraid she would have chosen to use supernatural powers to change her identity with someone else and escape completely. Think of this. Shen Jian's eyes became darker and darker. Thoughts are spinning. There was the sound of a ball being slapped. Shen Jian looked around. The atrium is the hall for entertaining guests and is very spacious. A little boy was playing in the hall with a rubber ball. From time to time he would giggle and have snot running down his nose. It seems the intelligence is a bit abnormal. See this. The 13th prince took a deep breath. He said, "Teacher, in the ghost story, this little boy is a little evil spirit with incomplete intelligence but extremely vicious thoughts. Because of the darkness in his family, he himself has been assimilated, and he is almost the same as a real evil spirit. In the story, this little boy often uses his foolish image to kill the children living in the neighborhood, including but not limited to selling, pushing him into a well, hanging, burying, drowning, etc. In terms of the degree of sin, he is actually worse than the cat-faced old lady is even more extreme." Shen Jian nodded slightly. "Think about it." He shouted, "Kids, come here quickly, Uncle has something fun here. Hear sounds." The little boy immediately turned his head and looked. Shen Jian was also very enthusiastic. "Come on, this thing is really fun, and it will also help cultivate the bond between you and your family." The little boy became more and more curious. Can it cultivate bonds with family members? Is there really such a thing? For him, this is undoubtedly the most missing aspect. Then he dropped the ball, trotted to Shen Jian, stared at the face that looked like dementia, and asked curiously, "What is it? What is it? Uncle, please tell me quickly, tell me, I need this thing." The more he talks, the little boy became more and more excited. In just a few sentences, his tone changed all the way. From the initial curiosity and innocence, it progresses to anxiety, rage, distortion, and ferocity. He stared at Shen Jian intently, taking off one of Shen Jian's legs if he had any disagreement and asking questions. Shen Jian smiled warmly, showing the image of a loving father who spoiled him, and then smiled mysteriously. "Come on, close your eyes and open them after counting to 3. The little boy scratched his ears and rubbed his cheeks, his upper teeth rubbed his lower lip, biting out a few bloody holes, but he still closed his eyes and counted 3 times carefully. Then he couldn't wait to open his eyes. "I want to know what Shen Jian has prepared." The next second, Shen Jian lived up to expectations. He took out a head and put the head in front of the little boy, facing him. It was a head with a cat face, eyes wide open, motionless. "Look, it's your grandma. Do you think this looks like a rubber ball? My uncle thinks your rubber ball is dirty, so he will give you another one for free. You can shoot it a few more times and have fun with your grandma. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace." Author, Shi Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 746. Looking at the cat-faced head in front of him, the little boy didn't react for a moment. He just felt that Shen Jian was cheating on him. He was already so unlucky, but he didn't expect someone to make fun of him. This is so humming bloody. A surge of overwhelming anger emerged in the little boy's heart, and he stared at Shen Jian's face with a sinister look. He looked like, "Uncle, you are dead." However, Shen Jian seemed like he couldn't see it, but he still said with a gentle expression, "Kid, your grandma has exploded. I will give you her head, so that you will have another way to accompany your grandma." Little boy. God is so accompanying. The way your family spends time with the elderly is to pick off their heads and shoot them like balls? Then the way your family gets along is quite hellish. He was sure. This uncle was just playing tricks on him. How can anyone give a child a toy that is someone else's head? How is this different from giving a baby an embryo? It's really like riding a horse into the underworld. The little boy subconsciously slapped the head off Shen Jian's hand and roared, "Your grandma's was the one that exploded." Then From the corner of his eye, he glanced at the head that fell to the ground again. Cat face, his breasts seemed to be like those of a cat. Green eyes, huh? More like it? Big, smelly fangs, wait, it seems, this is somewhat similar. Grass. This is really his grandma. The little boy's expression changed from angry at the beginning, to suspicion, to surprise, and finally, completely dull. The face of a child, who looked like a demon, froze suddenly at this moment. Then she started wailing, "Grandma, I didn't mean it, it was this uncle who was hurting me." While talking, the little boy picked up the fallen head. His red eyes looked at Shen Jian with hatred, as if he had a blood feud. Aside, the 13th prince looked more and more strange. If he hadn't experienced the scene himself, he probably wouldn't be able to believe that he and Shen Jian were the victims. This is obviously a powerful second-generation playboy who is bullying other people's grandparents and grandchildren, and even killed the child's grandmother. It looks like you can't do anything to me, but I can continue to bully you. The feeling of being bullied is too strong. It was hard for him to believe that this was the first time Shen Jian had done such a thing. If he hadn't been able to arrange the teacher arbitrarily, he would even think that this was the true face of the teacher. For a while, the 13th prince was a little confused. The Queen Mother said not to bully others, but the Queen Mother told herself to obey the teacher's words. Now the teacher is bullying others, so whose order should he follow? Fortunately, the 13th prince didn't think about it for long. Then he saw the little boy rushing towards him like he was crazy, and he was still cursing angrily, "You deserve to die, I will bury your body in the soil, hang your head upside down on the tree, and stand your limbs on the ground in front of the door. See this?" Shen Jian didn't panic and kicked him unceremoniously. He also took out the morning stick, a standard tool for killing ghosts, walked up to it, and started knocking down the stick. The pitiful screams spread throughout the atrium, and no one came to stop them. "You." Just as the little boy was about to speak, his words were interrupted. "What the hell, listen to me. You're addicted to beatings, aren't you? If you can, beat me to death, and I won't be able to live anymore. We'll die together." The little boy struggled hard. However, what he received every time was a severe beating. After beating for a long time, the little boy found that he seemed to have a stress reaction. The pain deepened. Then, not long after, "Uncle, that's about it. I've given up resisting. It would be disrespectful to continue fighting. Uncle, even if you think that I am thick-skinned and can withstand beatings, you still have to consider what if I break such a precious and expensive ghost weapon." Shen Jian ignored it. "Continue to teach people how to be a good person. One stick of incense time." The little boy hit Gigi. Lying on the ground, he let Shen Jian's stick fall on him without resisting the whole time. He wanted to cry but had no tears. "What the hell, did you have a grudge against me in your previous life? I was singled out for the fight. You can dismember my grandma directly. Isn't it wrong to dismember me? This has to be treated differently too, damn it." In such resentment, the little boy lost consciousness and fell into a state of death that would last for at least 100 years. Before death, he was thinking in his heart, "How long will this dog send the things?" The other side, Shen Jian stopped what he was doing. "Take a deep breath. Take 12 a day and feel refreshed. What should I do if my children disobey? Most likely it's an itchy skin. There is nothing that can't be solved by one beating. If there is, then 2 beatings." The 13th prince swallowed. "I made up my mind that I must not offend the teacher, otherwise I don't know how I will die." Teacher, this little boy was also at the level of a ghost king in ghost stories, but now he has been promoted to a top ghost king. I suspect that it is not just him and the 2 of them, but the whole family of 5 here has undergone changes to varying degrees. Shen Jian glanced at the 13th prince. There was a hint of disgust in his eyes. Your reaction is too slow, you are completely incomparable to the eldest princess. 13th prince. Hear this. He felt a little aggrieved. Teacher, I am just a child, and Sister Milan is the object of my admiration. I am trying to be like her. Conversation room. A pungent smell of smoke slowly came over. Look in the direction. In the garden of the atrium, there was a faint figure lying on a recliner with a relaxed posture, holding a pipe in his hand. White smoke rose up from the pipe and spread in all directions. The 13th prince frowned. I just feel that the pungent smell of tobacco is filling my nose. It made him very uncomfortable. Whether it is physical or psychological, there is a disgust reaction. This is his body's warning. Keep him away from the source of the incident. But the strange thing is that after less than 2 seconds, his mind changed. He began to think that the smell of smoke was quite good. After a while, he became obsessed with this smoke, and an idea came to his mind: it should be okay to take a puff of this smoke. As soon as this idea came up, the 13th prince trembled violently and gasped for air. His face was even more chilly. Got hit. He did not expect that the supernatural influence brought about by the smoke would be so fast, making him unable to guard against it. Once this mouth is opened, he will completely become a puppet controlled by the smoker and be unable to extricate himself. Subconsciously, the 13th prince looked at Shen Jian and lowered his voice. Teacher, the source of this cigarette smell is the old smoker in the secret Sihaiwan ghost story. He is the source of the tragedy. The smoke gun in his hand has an addictive effect. Once he smells the smoke, it is equivalent to being in the category of supernatural attack. If the owner of the smoke gun cannot be stopped, once he inhales too much smoke, he will be attacked. Corroded assimilation, reduced to a slave to smoking and guns. This old smoker is one of the slaves of the pipe. He does nothing but smoke every day. He also takes all the money in the family to refill the pipe. When he runs out of money, he loses his temper, beats and scolds his wife, and squeezes out all sources of expenditure from his son and daughter-in-law. Shen Jian said nothing. He strode over. Stopped directly in front of the old smoker. But even so, the old man in front of him had no intention of getting up. He leaned on the recliner and puffed away, looking like he was enjoying himself very much. The white smoke he exhaled condensed above and lingered for a long time. Shen Jian said, Old man, did you hear anything just now? The old smoker glanced at Shen Jian. I heard my grandson's scream. Since you are here, you should pay for it. 400,000 thriller coins are just enough to buy 2 more bars. Hear this. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. The meaning of the old smoker in front of him was already obvious. He did hear the sound of the little boy being beaten, and had a full view of it, but instead of stopping him, he even negotiated terms with himself. All it takes is 400,000 thriller coins, and he pretends he didn't see it. You have a big heart, aren't you afraid that your grandson will be kidnapped? Shen Jian asked curiously. He, I have a broad mind. If you can give me 1 million thriller coins, I can also give you my grandson. The old smoker hasn't finished speaking yet. The originally complacent expression suddenly stagnated. He saw that Shen Jian put his hand into his body and groped for something. At the same time, he did not forget to mutter, broad-minded? I want to see if you are really so broad-minded. Old smoker? He was smoking a dry cigarette and was confused by the sentence. What? You want to know if I have a broad mind? Why are you stabbing me in the heart? Isn't this thing just based on bragging? Otherwise, where is the comparison? Where's the proof? Can this thing be quantified? Just thinking about it? The old smoker, who was a beat slower, finally reacted. And Shen Jian had already taken out what he needed. A living and beating ghost heart. Haha, you don't look very big-hearted. Shen Jian grinned. He pointed at the palm-sized Gui Xian in his hand and began to defend himself sincerely. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 747. This moment. The whole place fell silent. Falling into an eerie silence. The old smoker was holding a pipe in his hand, and his original expression of contentment as he puffed away smoke became stiff at this moment. He stared blankly at the heart in Shen Jian's hand. His face turned green. Damn it! Is this what it means to be broad-minded? Your Chinese was taught by your physical education teacher, right? You are such a humming dog. When talking to you, you have to think about whether the sentence has any reference. To be broad-minded, you have to take out my stomach to see how big it is. Then you might as well say, I have a big appetite. Do you also have to take out my stomach to see how big it is? Grass. You have taken all the bamboo shoots on the mountain. You. The old smoker's eyes widened and he was about to say something, but he saw that Shen Jian had lost interest in him. He flicked a finger and a bright golden beam pierced his head. Thump. A body fell. Shen Jian curled his lips and put away the body and the heart. Smokers are also ghosts. As long as he is a top ghost king or above, he will adhere to the principle of not wasting, not abandoning, and never abandoning. Do it all. Shen Jian clapped his hands and walked towards the inner courtyard of the courtyard. En route. Shen Jian asked, Xiao Shizhen, what have you learned after reading these cases? 13th Prince. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. What did you learn? Can I say I learned nothing? Wrong. To be more specific, did you really teach me anything? At the moment, the 13th Prince only knew a little. As a teacher, he was definitely not a good citizen. To say that a bad person turned into a good person was an understatement. He even felt that this Tama was just a bad person who bullied men and women. The Queen Mother invited him here just to let him learn how to be a bully. Seeing that the 13th Prince didn't speak, Shen Jian hated the iron and said, You can't teach a fool. You have to remember that exorcising ghosts is not about killing. Simply catching and killing ghosts will easily make you lose interest. You need to find points of interest, heal the souls of these ghosts, and make them have emotional fluctuations. This kind of ghost exorcism can have a soul. When the 13th Prince heard this, he was thoughtful. Thinking of everything that had just happened, I silently made a note in my heart, don't kill ghosts directly, let yourself have fun first. Understand? I kind of understand. The 13th Prince came to a clear understanding and thought about his words, when dealing with evil spirits, it is useless to be considerate. You cannot give yourself up and let the other person get away with it. Hear this. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. Although these words are almost meaningless, it is not bad to have such an understanding at once. Children can be taught. When I get back later, I will go to your mother to tell you the good news. Say it. Take long strides. The 13th Prince followed behind, his eyes filled with joy. Regardless of anything else, at least in terms of guidance, he is a teacher who does his duty. Even for such a small change, Shen Jian went to tell his mother the good news. It seemed that he had a high status in the teacher's mind and was highly valued by the teacher. Think of this. He felt very happy. The inner court. Just like when you stepped into the atrium, the moment you stepped into the inner courtyard, another invisible ghost realm enveloped this place. This is already the third level of ghost space. Unless ghosts and gods come in person, Even if a supernatural conflict breaks out, no one will be able to detect anything abnormal. In fact, this is the same principle as the ghost realm exile. Exile from the ghost realm is to create multiple levels of ghost realm spaces within a ghost realm, placing oneself in different positions. It seems that he is standing in the same place, but in fact, his position is several worlds away from where he is standing. Human eyes can see the sun, it seems not far away, but it is a universe away. This is what exile in ghost realm is all about. The ghost family living in the courtyard cannot master such advanced skills, but they can make the ghost domains overlap and produce similar effects. Thinking. Shen Jian had already passed through the garden and entered the courtyard. Just entered. I saw an honest man walking out of the box. It was a mutilated ghost. The left leg was completely cut off. It was empty and it was an old injury. The lower right forearm was completely dismembered, dripping with blood, as if it had just been injured. The 13th prince explained, he is missing his left leg, and his features are quite obvious. He is the husband of a family of 5 in the ghost story. He is called the 7 Jumper. He seems to be honest and kind, but in fact he is also a guy with a bad heart. If the old smoker is the source of everything, then this jumping 7 is the real culprit that drives everything. He often domestically abused his wife. In an accident, he saw someone flirting with his wife, so he came up with the idea of selling her out and took action. When the wife was unwilling, he started domestic violence. He is a social scum who is inconsistent with his appearance. And this is just because he is ugly, not confident enough, does not believe that his wife will be loyal to him, and is always suspicious. During the conversation, the man who walked out of the box also saw Shen Jian and the 13th prince entering here. He was stunned for a moment, and then stared straight at Shen Jian's face and complete hands and feet. That honest-looking face suddenly revealed an extraordinary sinister smile. However, before he could speak, Shen Jian had already run over first. He said with eager eyes, "Brother, you seem to be injured. The wound is a bit large and it has been bleeding. You need to stop the bleeding in time." The man was stunned for a moment. He could clearly detect that Shen Jian's expression didn't look fake. But she was sincerely worried about his injury. No. A good and positive person came this time. It's really great. He likes good people best. A good person should peel off the skin from his face and give it to him, and then give him his body as well. In this way, he can change himself and become a handsome man in the eyes of others. Think of this. The expression on the man's face became more ferocious. He showed a sinister smile. The terrifying yin-chi fluctuations belonging to the top Ghost King level spread around. He looked at Shen Jian teasingly and said, "Then what do you think I should do?" Shen Jian said nothing. Looking up and down the other person's body. Focus especially on the heart and head. Man? No. Did he see it wrong? Why did he always feel that this man's eyes were focused on these 2 places on him? What I really lack are hands and feet. What do you think my heart and head are doing? Don't you understand the principle of making up for whatever is missing? Immediately, the man became startled and was about to silently distance himself a little when he saw that Shen Jian had already taken out a simple ghost knife. He is even more stupid. No, didn't you want to help me stop the bleeding? Why did you take out the knife? Is the treatment you mentioned what I thought? The man had noticed something was wrong. He had even unleashed the terrifying supernatural threat of the top Ghost King. If it were an ordinary ghost, even if it was a being of the same level, his face would not react at all. However, this strange outsider who broke into the inner courtyard had a normal expression, as if he could not feel this supernatural threat at all. The more abnormal it is, the more the facts exceed his expectations. He was going to call out his wife. That's what I thought. Shen Jian had already grabbed his wrist. He explained patiently, Brother, don't you understand? As the most important blood supply organ in our body, the heart will stop flowing blood throughout the body once it is lost. This avoids the risk of excessive blood loss. There are central nerves in the head that control the human body's senses. As long as you take it off, it will have a general anesthesia effect. In this way, you will not feel pain during the treatment. This is the experience I have gained from practicing medicine for 30 years. It is to ensure the safety of patients to the maximum extent. After all, medicines are 3 parts toxic, and anesthetics are also medicines. If you can use natural ones, there is no need for synthetic ones. Shen Jian talked eloquently. He looked like an old Chinese doctor. The main thing is no pollution, no risk, and no safety guarantee. Man. Damn it. Are you serious about riding a horse? What a natural anesthetic. You quack. Wrong. You're not a humming doctor. The man has some toothache. He didn't know whether following Shen Jian's treatment plan could help him stop the bleeding, but he knew that the effects of general anesthesia might not last for a while. The man struggled to break free from Shen Jian's restraints. I wanted to rush into the box that had just been closed, call out to my wife, and tell her that there was a perverted murderer here. But trying, he despaired. Because he found that the big hand holding the cattail leaf fan on his wrist was like a sacred mountain of steel, which could not be shaken at all. In fact, his wrist has been fractured, and traces of shattering can be faintly heard. The harder he struggles, the louder the sound of the bones breaking. The man was completely powerless. Obviously he was only a hand's reach away from the door of the box, but he knew that unless he could push the door open and enter, his wife in the box would never be able to discover what was going on outside. Because there is also a ghost realm inside the box. It seems like they are separated by a door, but actually they are thousands of miles apart. GGG, I will talk to your wife about my life ideals in a moment. Shen Jian had the same sinister smile on his face. The ghost sword was raised. Just cut it down. The next second, all was quiet. Shen Jian's eyes fell on the closed door of the box. The same goes for the 13th prince. Because there are only a family of 5 in this courtyard house. Right now, my grandparents, grandchildren, and husband have all been killed. That leaves only the last family member, the woman. At the same time, he is also the target of their visit this time. Another player in framing the queen. Soon. Shen Jian pushed open the door. Went in. Before taking a few steps forward, I heard a suppressed woman's roar coming from the bedroom inside. Go away, I've already said, don't come to my place. You think having one arm dismembered is not enough, so you want to I'll tear off your other leg again, right? The words just fell. There was a sound of objects rolling to the ground. The woman in the bedroom was startled. Just when I was wondering what the sound of something rolling on the ground was, I saw an object rolling over here. Take a closer look. It was a right leg. Woman. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 748. Inside the room. A thin woman with cracks, bruises, and holes all over her body and a withered face was sitting in front of the dressing table, stroking the flaws on her body. The haggard eyes were full of gloom. A terrifying yin energy that was infinitely close to ghosts and gods surged out. It is obviously a broken body, but the terrifying supernatural threat it exudes is enough to make people palpitate and dare not move. If the men who had bullied her knew that the woman he could dispose of at will with a small amount of money had now transformed into the most terrifying top ghost king below the level of ghosts and gods, they would not dare to sleep most of the night. The woman murmured to herself, damn it, they have replaced such a chaotic family. I really want to kill them. In her tone, she did not treat the other relatives in the courtyard as a family at all, but as if they were strangers. Apparently, this is exactly one of the behind-the-scenes participants that Shen Jian is looking for this time. Affiliated to the Zhantai family, she was once a maid beside the current Queen Zhantai Mingjing. However, she was bribed and became one of the participants who poisoned the queen and framed the eldest princess. Once her supernatural power is activated, she can randomly change her identity. With this supernatural power, the other party escaped from death and became the wife of one of the 5 members of the family in the secret Saihewan ghost story. And, due to the limitations of supernatural laws, she must use the identity of the other person to survive, otherwise the supernatural will come back and return to the dismembered body. The woman touched the various marks on her body that had been abused, ravaged, and ruined, and a trace of disgust flashed in her eyes. As a maid of the Zhantai family and one of the unwritten emperor's concubines, her appearance is also extremely beautiful. Although she is not as charming as the queen, she can still be regarded as fresh. But now, she has been replaced by a hookup woman. Replaced with such a broken body, she despised the original consciousness of this body. Replacing it with the other person lowered her identity. Certainly. What's more important is the family that comes with this body. A vicious mother-in-law, a smoker father-in-law, a vicious son, and a domestically violent husband. Especially her husband, who dared to use his terrifying level to touch her. It was already easy to take off one of his arms. If it weren't for the resources she brought back, this family would not be qualified to advance to the top Ghost King. Now, the resources that were exchanged for one's life have been exhausted. And she has also risen to a terrifying level that is infinitely close to the level of ghosts and gods. She was very satisfied with this. Coupled with the guards of the 4 top Ghost Kings in the courtyard and the restrictions of the multi-layered ghost domain, she is not too worried about being visited by the Zhantai family. Crunch. At this time, the door was pushed open again. The woman's face darkened. The only one who dared to open the door to her room like this was her so-called husband. It seemed that she hadn't taught her enough lessons, making the other party think that she was still the stupid woman who could be beaten and scolded by him. Immediately, horrifying supernatural phenomena spread in the room. The woman said sadly, "Do you want to die? Believe it or not, I will dismember your last leg." Gilug. There was a sound of objects rolling down. The woman took a closer look. What rolled over was a right leg. Apparently, it was her husband's leg. Woman? She froze. No. Are you so humming obedient? Too honest. This doesn't sound like what her husband did. The woman became suspicious. But it only took a moment for him to come back to his senses. With a look of disdain on his face, he said, "Why, now you know the position of the younger brother in the family. But I am not interested in you. Climb out. You loser, if you dare to take a step forward again, I will pick off your head now and feed you to your mother." The words fell. Another sound of objects rolling down was heard. Round. Take a closer look. It was a head. His appearance is very familiar, he is the original husband of this body. Woman. She was confused. Damn it. Is there something wrong with you riding a horse? You actually took off your own head. Even if you want to beg me, you have to be alive to beg. They are so meowing that they even have no heads. Please die. No one told her that this family was so honest that they would die if they said so. Women are messy. Just thinking about it. The sound of several objects rolling down was heard again. 3 heads rolled towards me like bowling balls. Take another look. A cat face, a child's face, an old man's head that was pierced. Coupled with her husband from the beginning, 4 heads were clearly displayed in front of her, all of them staring at her with unblinking eyes. The atmosphere at the scene suddenly fell into silence. The woman's face also turned pale little by little. If it was just her husband who died, she would think that her husband was sick. But if this death is the death of a whole family, it is definitely not an accident. But someone is slaughtering here. Who is it? Isn't this just an inconspicuous fringe area? Why would there be existences that killed 4 top ghost kings one after another? To know. For the sake of her safety, she began to use her own resources to help the 4 people, in order to help her intercept possible pursuers in advance, and even if the situation failed, it could buy her time to escape. But now, the 4 top ghost kings were all gone, but she didn't notice any signs. This shows that the invaders who killed these 4 top ghost kings resolved the battle in a very short and crushing manner. This is not something that a top ghost king of the same level can do. Even she couldn't do this. In other words, the intruder is at least a ghost. Think of this possibility. The woman's face turned green. When ghosts and gods come to attack, they send someone to show them to her if they don't agree with each other. This is clearly targeting her. Was she exposed? How can this be? In order to prevent exposure, she has not gone out at all in the past 6 months, and intruders cannot enter the inner courtyard. In front of other neighbors, she should still be a hookup woman. Why did you find her now? You must be predicting, so accurate. Thinking. Tap tap tap. Footsteps sounded. A woman feels as if she is facing a powerful enemy, terrified and doesn't know what to do. If you want to escape, the whole room is in a ghost zone and there is no way to leave. Don't run away, she is very scared. There is still a gap between being infinitely close to ghosts and gods and being real ghosts and gods. And as far as he knew, there was only one ghost in the Xantai family. That is the Queen's biological father, one of the 6 ministers of rights. If officials from the 6th department were here, she would have no chance of escaping. Soon. The footsteps stopped. The woman looked up. As soon as she came into view, she saw a handsome man with black hair and black eyes, his wrist tied with a blood-stained hemp rope, smiling strangely at her. Not the Minister of Rights? The woman was about to breathe a sigh of relief when her peripheral vision moved down and she saw someone she was familiar with. 13th Prince. It's over. The woman's heart sank. Even if the Minister of Rights did not come in person, this matter still had something to do with the Queen. Otherwise, the 13th Prince would not appear here. The only thing she hopes now is that the other party doesn't know her true identity. Brainstorm some ideas. The woman managed to calm down. He spoke tremblingly, who are you? Why did you kill my family? Does the Qing kingdom still have a trump card? I'm going to sue you for breaking into a house and killing someone. Hear this. Before the 13th Prince became angry, Shen Jian had already laughed arrogantly, are you stupid? If you say this, even if I want to let you go, it will be impossible. Woman. She couldn't hold it any longer. Then I thought about it. It seems like it's really like riding a horse. But how dare you say such words that trample on the laws of the Qing kingdom in front of a royal prince? If it had been any other prince, he might not have taken it seriously. But she understands the 13th prince. When she was a maid beside the queen, she often heard the queen's teachings to the 13th prince. With such familiarity, she said that the 13th prince was the member of the royal family who knew the most rules, and there was no problem at all. In this case, unless there is sufficient evidence, the 13th prince will never allow this to happen. However, the idea is beautiful. The reality is very cruel. The woman discovered that the 13th prince had no reaction. He even echoed, if I weren't stupid, how could I have thought of framing my mother and Princess Milan? Teacher, can I kill her myself later? Shen Jian glanced at the 13th prince. He said casually, remember to get psychological treatment. The 13th prince nodded and took the initiative to rephrase the sentence, remember to torture first and base your own happiness on her pain. heard this conversation. The woman is heartbroken. Teacher. When did the 13th prince find a teacher? But this is no longer the point. The point is, from the conversation between the two, she could clearly hear that the other party had determined her identity. In other words, she was really exposed. End of chapter. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 749. In the dormitory. The woman had retreated to the wall, leaning on it with her hands helplessly, as if she didn't do this, her legs and feet would become weak and she would fall down. In front of her, stood one large and one small. The younger one is the legitimate son of the queen and the 13th prince of the current dynasty. The eldest one was the teacher of the 13th prince, a strange man who appeared after her death. It seemed that this man should be the culprit who killed the family of 4. And she didn't know why, but she always felt that this man seemed a bit familiar, as if she had seen him somewhere. Especially with such an outstanding appearance, if she had seen it, she would never forget it. Suddenly, an image flashed in the woman's mind. That was the only time she went out since she was replaced with this body. At the beginning, after she had made all preparations, she chose to use her supernatural power to replace herself with real death and become the owner of this body. In the following months, she maintained the life of the original owner and lived every day in fear. One day. It was not until more than 2 months ago, after she discovered that she had not been exposed, that she chose to go out once and take out all the rewards she had received for her role in framing the queen and the eldest princess at once. It was also this day. She saw that the streets of Kingwo's imperial capital were deserted and filled with shouts. After asking around, I found out that a night-wandering god's envoy from the 4th-ranked town killed Prince Li of the royal family in full view of the public, bringing the final justice to the Qing kingdom and gaining a reputation that was unimaginably dazzling. A stark contrast to a street rat like her. And now, she found that the former governor seemed to be overlapping with the man in front of her. This moment, the woman's pupils widened. My mind felt like it was struck by thunder. The soothing envoy was the man in front of her, and there was nothing wrong with that. Grass. What the hum is going on? Why did the 13th prince hang out with Kingwo's wanted criminals? Wrong. It's not just a problem with the 13th prince. This man is the 13th prince's teacher. It's impossible for the empress to not know about this matter. She would dare to do this even if she knew it. Is the empress awakening from darkness? Your Majesty the governor, the queen is playing with fire. Once discovered, her position as queen will no longer be secure. The woman was sweating coldly. Subconsciously, I thought that the queen's bold behavior was probably related to their frame-up. In other words, if they had not planned to poison the queen and frame the eldest princess, this man would not have become the teacher of the 13th prince, let alone appear here. Hear this. Shen Jian's face was expressionless. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Since you know you can't escape, then tell me the information I need." The woman fell silent. Of course she knew what Shen Jian wanted to ask, and she also knew that it didn't matter whether she answered or not. After all, she was sentenced to death the moment she was caught. Even if she didn't say it, others would still have a way to know it. As far as she knew, the royal family had a group of royal spies who obeyed orders, and their spy leaders were the best at extracting the information they needed from prisoners. Then, the woman smiled bitterly as if she was resigned to her fate. "What do you want to ask? Who is the mastermind behind this?" "I don't know, but the superior I handed over to was an official from the Ministry of Revenue. I had a relationship with this official once. He was the third son of the minister of the Ministry of Revenue and the chaperone of the prince. He might have from the beginning. I planned to kill us after the plan was completed, so I didn't pretend too much in this regard, and I didn't know that I had a supernatural ability to escape." The woman laughed mockingly. The meaning of her words was already very obvious. The prince may be afraid that there will be problems with the plan, or he may feel that the plan is too bold and will make him doomed if it is exposed, so he directly sends the book boy next to him to take over the work. But the prince never expected that she had the power to replace her identity with the real dead. Before the plan was completed and the prince sent assassins to eradicate them, she had already transferred the rewards and escaped with real death. Therefore, she became a missing link in the prince's plan. And the prince probably didn't know that she was still alive. Hear the words. Shen Jian nodded slightly. The third son of Hubu Shangzhu, Hubu was already a party member who supported the prince. Now that his son is involved, no one will believe that this matter has nothing to do with Hubu Shangzhu. Now it seems that this is completely a trap set up by the Minister of Household Affairs and the Crown Prince to target the eldest princess. In the process, did the queen just suffer an unreasonable disaster? Being used as a sacrifice to frame the eldest princess? Why queen? Shen Jian asked the doubts in his heart. It is good to frame anyone, but framing the queen, the mother of a country, is undoubtedly the worst choice. The prince could choose to frame the 13th prince, which would not only be less difficult, but also eliminate a future candidate for heir apparent. You do not know. The woman was startled and then realized that Shen Jian didn't know much about the palace. She explained, "Master Shen, do you know how the former queen died?" Hear this. Shen Jian was also stunned. Because he really didn't understand it, and now that he heard it, it was so weird. The former empress was the first mother-in-law married by Emperor Qingming. Her level of terror was definitely not low, at least above the level of a top ghost king. It is difficult for a ghost of this level to die naturally. Unless other unnatural means are used, such as supernatural toxins. Shen Jian shook his head. The woman continued, "Well, actually we don't know either." Shen Jian. The death of the former queen is still a mystery until now. But one day, the news of the queen's funeral came from Emperor Qing's mouth. The government and the public were shocked. Countless people were in an uproar and wanted to know the reason. In this regard, Emperor Qing only said one word: poison. Someone poisoned the former empress. Who this person was, Emperor Qing did not say, and no one found any clues, but they believed that whoever profited in the end would be involved. Obviously, the empress was the lucky one and became the second queen and was also regarded as the murderer who poisoned the former queen. The woman looked at Shen Jian and told him the information she knew word for word. The current Minister of Household Affairs is the father of the former queen, and the prince is the son of the former queen. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. I see. Framing the eldest princess was the purpose of the plan, and choosing the queen was out of revenge. You are the maid beside the current queen. Do you think the queen did it? Shen Jian asked again. Of course not, the woman sneered. Although I have framed the empress, I also feel that the empress is too naive. She obviously has a peerless appearance, but she is like a canary trapped in a birdcage and does not take the initiative at all. Communicate with Emperor Qing, but this is the only thing I know, that the queen is innocent. I have been staying with the queen. If there is anything abnormal with the queen, I will be the first to know. Even I don't know. This proves that the queen is innocent. Never done it? Shen Jian narrowed his eyes. He pondered slightly. It wasn't that he doubted the truthfulness of the woman's words. But I feel that this matter is probably related to Emperor Qing. After all, Emperor Qing wanted to destroy the Qing kingdom, so killing a queen meant nothing. Moment. Shen Jian came to his senses. He ignored the woman and turned around to leave. It's enough to know so much about the clues. All that's left is to make this matter final. The woman's verbal description alone was not enough evidence to convict the prince of this crime. He also needed other people's physical evidence. Return to Jinho Mansion. Shen Jian contacted Her Royal Highness the Princess. The cause of the death of the mother-in-law, the eldest princess frowned. This matter has nothing to do with the queen. The prince and the Minister of Household Affairs are really messing around. If the truth is so simple, how could the father let her become the queen in the first place? I just want to vent my anger. When she said this, Princess Maelin's face showed no other unnecessary emotions except for a hint of complexity. It was as if the mother-in-law she was talking about, the former queen, was just a stranger to her. Then who do you think the murderer is? Shen Jian asked curiously. Hear this. Princess Maelan was silent for a moment, and then she opened her mouth and said, although I have a bad relationship with my mother-in-law, when she died, I still tried my best to understand the truth. The one I suspected first was also the most likely person in the palace. The queen's concubine, but after I eliminated them one by one, I didn't find the target of the crime at all. This matter has always been a mystery and shrouded in mystery, but now, I think I have something to suspect. Can you guess? The eldest princess looked at Shen Jian, as if she wanted to confirm her conjecture from this man who had a close relationship with her. Shen Jian said word by word, Emperor Cheng. Princess Maelan raised her eyes with a complicated expression. It's true. I actually doubted it at first, but I couldn't figure out the reason. But since you said that my father's purpose is to destroy the Qing kingdom, thinking of this, I guessed that the mother-in-law must have discovered some clues, but the father noticed it. Shen Jian said nothing. Somewhat tongue-tied. The royal family has no family ties, which is normal in all dynasties. The eldest princess and the prince are also siblings, but the prince's intention to kill the eldest princess is already obvious. But such a big event as the emperor killing the queen is still rare. Wanting to destroy your own country is even more rare. Thinking. Princess Maelan quickly adjusted her thoughts. Asked, what are you going to do next? It is difficult to blame all this on the prince based on the testimony of a queen's maid whose identity has completely changed. It is not impossible to be bitten back. Shen Jian looked at the eldest princess with deep eyes and grinned slightly. Your Highness, do you think that the Secretary of the Ministry of Finance will have a complete story about this incident in his memory? Princess Maelan. She raised her beautiful eyes slightly and couldn't help but hold her forehead. Although she had known for a long time that Shen Jian didn't like to use his brain and liked to rush into the past, when she heard that Shen Jian wanted to extract the memory of one of the 6 ministers of the Ministry of Finance, she still felt a little upset in her heart. She is obviously a think tank who knows how to lie dormant, take 1 step and see 3 steps, and plan 5 steps. Why did she find a reckless man who likes to play Wushuan? The eldest princess let out a small cry in her heart. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 751. Finally. The eldest princess still compromised. The relationship between her and Shen Jian is not a normal monarch and minister, but a closer underground lover. In terms of status, she seems to be the dominant one, but in fact, all the breakthroughs are caused by Shen Jian. In this case, even if she refutes Shen Jian's opinion, the bold man will most likely not listen. Rather than doing this, it is better to collect enough intelligence for Shen Jian to nip the danger in the bud. In this regard, the eldest princess is very open-minded and is not stubborn about her opinions. I'm basically relieved about your strength, but you can't be careless. Hubyu Shangshu is also a ghost, and supernatural beings have a certain degree of weirdness. According to my investigation, Hubyu Shangshu can transform words into a special kind of supernatural power. Font. Whether someone sees or hears what is described in the supernatural text, the supernatural power will be triggered, allowing the enemy to act according to what he describes, control other people's bodies at will, and do many unexpected things. Princess Milan said seriously. Don't underestimate his supernatural power. If there is enough time, he can attract tens of thousands of ghosts at once to carry out human tactics. You humans will never be able to match the real ghosts in terms of durability. She recalled the enemy information she had collected and told it to Shen Jian bit by bit. In a supernatural confrontation of the same level, if one party knows the other party's supernatural power in advance, it will basically have the upper hand. For example, if the conditions are sufficient, the Minister of the Ministry of Revenue can plaster his own supernatural writings all over the imperial city and control the people in the city to act as scapegoats and cannon fodder. Under this situation, the horror of the Minister of Tobe cannot be described by simple ghosts and gods. But if you know all this in advance, you can avoid falling into overtime. Then the opponent's terror level is that of ordinary ghosts and gods. The difference between the two is not that big. Are you listening? What are you thinking about? Seeing that Shen Jian was a little stunned, Princess Milan said a little strangely. The other side. Shen Jian stared at the Suya Emperor's eldest daughter in front of him, raised his eyebrows and said, I'm wondering, what gave you the illusion that I'm not lasting enough? Princess? She was stunned at first. Then he gave Shen Jian an angry look. Her pretty face turned pink and she said angrily, I'm telling you about the enemy's weaknesses. Did you only hear these two words? Your Highness, you can say that a man has average looks, average body, average mind, and average career, but his physical fitness cannot be average. Shen Jian said seriously. No, Your Highness, you have hurt me and I must make up for it. Hear this. Princess Milan didn't know what Shen Jian meant. This little man really dug in wherever there was a crack and tried his best to take advantage of her. But she doesn't hate it. The more Shen Jian is infatuated with her, the more it proves that she holds a more important position in the other person's heart. She is also a woman, how could she not have the desire to compare? As the legitimate daughter of the royal family and the eldest daughter of the emperor, she thought to herself that she was better than the assistant minister's wife in terms of status and appearance. The more Shen Jian fell in love with her, the more it proved that the assistant minister's wife was not as good as her. Think of this. The eldest princess's lips curled up slightly. But when she thought of Shen Jian's purpose, her face was filled with embarrassment. This time it's my fault. Tell me, what do you want me to compensate for? The words have not yet finished. Shen Jian just stretched out his hand. Hold the neph right in front of you into your arms. The nose is filled with the fragrance like lotus. Subconsciously, Shen Jian kissed the eldest princess's neck, and followed the traces, slowly spreading his footprints to the collarbone. He discovered early on that the earlobes, neck, and other places were where the eldest princess's senses were stronger. Kissing these places would make her emotional very quickly. Slowly. The eldest princess's pink face turned crimson, so red that she seemed to be bleeding. Delicate and charming, with an emotional look that is ready for you to pick. Your Highness, it's your turn to help me. Shen Jian came close to her ear and whispered softly. While talking, his eyes glanced down. For a long time. Princess Milan stopped. He mumbled angrily, Are you holding in your breath? Shen Jian shrugged and said with strange eyes, Your Highness, maybe the stress point is not strong enough. What should we do? The eldest princess frowned. These hands and feet cannot be used together. Shen Jian said nothing. His eyes were fixed on those gorgeous lips. The eldest princess also seemed to be aware of it, and her eyes widened immediately. No, this is absolutely not possible. Don't even think about it. Are you humans so perverted? Princess Milan became angry. As a princess who had not yet left the palace, she was not only taken advantage of by Shen Jian, but was also given half-assed pedicures and hand treatments, and now, this bad guy actually wanted her to eat snacks. This is absolutely not okay. She would never agree to it even if she died. See this. Shen Jian is not annoyed either. Instead, he said innocently, then, Your Highness, are you just going to watch? I heard the old Chinese medicine doctor said that if you do this for a long time, it will be bad. You don't want your future happiness to be ruined in your hands, right? The eldest princess. She blushed so much that her eyes averted. He didn't dare to look at Shen Jian at all. But feeling the warmth in her hands and the overwhelmingly strong yang energy, she hesitated for a few seconds and finally closed her eyes. Stoop low. Moment. Shen Jian touched the eldest princess's head. The eldest princess also seemed to feel something. She raised her head and stared at Shen Jian, who was condescending. Your Highness, you did a great job. Shen Jian rubbed her head and said softly. Here encouragement. The eldest princess is like a child who is praised by the teacher and works harder. A long time. The ancient treatment is over. Seeing the eldest princess running out of the study room quickly, Shen Jian did not stop her. Swallow. This is too difficult for beginners. You can no longer arouse the other party's rebellious psychology. Soon. The eldest princess returned to the study. No other marks could be seen on his face, and his expression had returned to its usual dignity. She stared at Shen Jian without saying a word, just staring. Shen Jian laughed dryly, Your Highness, according to human opinion, this thing can beautify the skin, and it has great effects. It can increase the level of terror. These words. Shen Jian is not making it up. In the Vampire Castle copy, he had already experimented with this effect on the second lady. It really ups the horror level. It also has the effect of promoting bloodline evolution. At that time, he only had half of the Hell King's status in his body, and the resources in his body had such an effect. Now, he has 10 Yama status in his body, and the effect will only be even better. According to Shen Jian's estimation, if he could eat it, the Ghost King would be able to rise to the top Ghost King level. Do you think I believe it? Princess Milan still had a straight face. Shen Jian didn't say any more, but changed the topic, but secretly murmured in his heart, sooner or later, you will experience the effect personally. Your Highness, the focus now is not on this, but on the whereabouts of the Minister of Revenue. Hear this. The eldest princess suppressed the shame and anger in her heart. He said angrily, you can just go directly to Shangshu's mansion. According to my intelligence network, the Minister of Revenue does not have any hobbies. He will only go home after going to court. However, his mansion is very special. It is likely that the walls are full of decorations. It's a supernatural writing, and everything you encounter may have had supernatural writing written on it. The Shangshu mansion is a large chessboard. The Minister of Hubu is the chess player and controls the operation of the chessboard in the entire mansion. If you plan to break in, you must pay attention to this aspect. Although she was very angry, the eldest princess still warned her seriously. Looking at the entire Qing kingdom, ghosts and gods are not ordinary characters. They are existences at the top of the pyramid. Even though she knows that Shen Jian's strength is also unfathomable and has killed several ghosts and gods, she still can't help but worry. Shen Jian nodded slightly. I felt relieved inside. He glanced at the eldest princess again. Princess Milan. Current status, worry, shame, anger, lust. Favorability, 88, intimate. See this. Shen Jian's eyes flashed. 88 points of favorability, the intimacy stage. For now, the distance is almost pierced through the last layer of window paper. This time is not far away. Under night. The wind is very noisy tonight. The residence of Shangshuhubu was given by Emperor Qing. It is located on the busiest street. Even late at night, there are still some lonely ghosts wandering on the street. Shenjian came here. The ghost world wrapped itself around itself and walked in swaggeringly. Just entered. I discovered something different from other mansions. Lantern. There are white lanterns hanging everywhere. Normally, hanging white lanterns means someone has died in the family, but there are too many white lanterns here. Every 10 steps you walk, you can see lanterns emitting white candlelight placed in the most conspicuous places in various places. Shenjian was very interested. Take a closer look. Each lantern is engraved with a line of text that looks like a ghost painting. If you look carefully, you will find that these words are like living creatures, densely squirming like tadpoles, forming the so-called words. Shenjian looked over. Read the content of the text. An intruder sneaked into Shangshu Mansion and quickly discovered something was wrong. However, the intruder couldn't figure out what the problem was. But the next second, he suddenly heard that there was an eye in the bushes in the garden, staring at him. The words fell. Swish, swish, swish. A gust of dark wind blew. The bushes not far away rustled. The moonlight slanted down. In the bushes, there seemed to be a dark shadow thoughtfully. Look carefully again. Through the narrow grass, you can see an eye peering into the outside world. That eye, just as described in White Lantern, stared at Shenjian. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 752. Reading the ghost characters displayed in the White Lantern, Shenjian showed some interest in his eyes. He could clearly detect that there was an eye staring at him in the bushes not far from him. And before that, there is nothing unusual about the bush. But when he read the words described on the White Lantern, something happened. It seems. This ghostly talisman writing seems a bit like precognition. The prophetic writing on the parchment has a similar effect. Think of this. Shenjian shook his head and dismissed this view. This shouldn't be prediction. The heaven-defying precognition effect of the parchment is an ability that can only be obtained after superimposing the third place of Luo Feng Tian, which is the true spirit of Taisha Liangshi Sex Tiangong. Under normal circumstances, even if there are evil ghosts with precognitive abilities, it is impossible to predict such a long future. What's more, if this was really a prediction, the moment he stepped into Shangshu's mansion, what appeared here would not be a white lantern, but Emperor Qing and all the ghosts and gods of Qing Kingdom. As for the content on the white lantern, combined with the information the eldest princess had told him, Shenjian guessed that it was not just him, but all intruders who broke into the mansion. The reason why there is a corresponding abnormality when reading the ghost characters, it is most likely that they have been prepared in advance. Think about it. Shenjian came to the next white lantern. As expected. There is also a line of ghostly writing on the white lantern. The words are beating, as if alive, strange, and penetrating. Immediately. Shenjian read out, the intruders don't know it yet, but the eyes peering into the bushes also moved their sights. The distance is getting closer and closer, and you can faintly smell a rotten and moldy smell. The words fell. Shenjian glanced out of the corner of his eye and saw that the eyes that were originally dozens of meters away from him moved within 10 meters of him at this moment. There was a fishy smell of corpses rotting in the soil in the air. Shenjian's eyes lit up. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised. These white lanterns should be the masterpiece of Tobe Shangshu. When it comes to killing the intruders, he did not choose to take action immediately, but chose to play in a playful way. I want to disintegrate step by step, destroy the invader's heart, and make the other party watch in extreme fear as he gets closer and closer to death bit by bit. White lanterns commemorate not the family but the invaders. This method does have the meaning of being in the chess game and becoming a chess player. He is the negative chess piece, and the ghost appearing in the ghost painting characters is the square chess piece of the Minister of Tob. No matter how much the intruder jumps, he cannot escape from the chessboard in the end. Shen Jian continued to move forward. Come to the next white lantern. The above content is, the intruder finally realized that something was wrong, but when he wanted to go back, he found that the road behind him was gone. See this? Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. He felt that this development was not in line with his wishes. Then he slightly modified the content and read, the two were getting closer and closer. The ghost who was following the intruder suddenly saw a shovel appearing next to him. Rotten ghost? Just as he was about to use his supernatural powers to change the layout of the mansion and make Shen Jian lose his way, he was stunned. He hid in the bushes, his ghostly face falling off like grave soil, only one eye was fixed in the socket, but at this time, there was confusion in his eyes. No. You must have made a mistake. He remembered that the content of the white lantern was not like this. When did it change? The rotten ghost was shocked and confused. But he is a retainer of Shangshu Mansion and a chess piece in the hands of Lord Shangshu. Chess pieces cannot have their own ideas. Whatever was written in the white lantern, he had to do it word for word. Otherwise the consequences will be serious. After hesitating for a second, the rotten ghost began to look around for a shovel. The next second, a shovel sticky with dirt appeared behind him. There are some who really want to ride the horse. It seems that the content in White Lantern has indeed been changed. It is estimated that Lord Shangshu is disgusted with this kind of game and wants to change it. This time, the rotten ghost no longer doubts. Staring at Shen Jian, waiting for the intruder to read the next sentence. He was also curious about what kind of method Master Shangshu would devise to make the intruders face extreme fear this time. Just thinking about it, the rotten ghost saw that Shen Jian had walked to the next white lantern and read out, soon, the sound of digging a hole appeared in the bushes. The digging became harder and harder, and the hole was big enough to accommodate a head. The rotten ghost complied. A grimace showed a sinister expression. I see. He got it. This time, Lord Shangshu wanted the intruder to experience the game of watching himself suffocate. A pit that can only accommodate a head will definitely not be able to hold a corpse, but it can allow the head to be inserted upside down in the pit and turn into a carrot. Not long after, the hole is dug. The rotten ghost wiped the sweat from his face, grabbed the shovel, and waited for the next step. According to his understanding as a chess piece, the next sentence read out is basically the intruder's death date. He was ready to hit Shen Jian's head with a shovel at any time. The next second, Shen Jian continued to read, looking at this pothole, the ghost in the dark only feels a sense of beauty. He wants to occupy this pothole, bury it in the hole, and escape from reality. Rotten ghost. He was dumbfounded. Damn it. Is this sentence really special? Really? If you don't choose to kill the intruder, why bury him? And is there any aesthetic appeal to this pothole? He didn't want to occupy it at all, nor did he want to bury it and escape from reality. For a while, the rotten ghost was confused inside. Questions were raised about the development of the incident. He felt that this was not what was described on the white lantern, but he did not dare to bet. If this was the case, he would be doomed. He hesitated for a few seconds. The rotten ghost buried his head in the pit with tears in his eyes, and filled it with soil, so that he was stuck upside down in the ground like a carrot. The other side. Seeing this scene, Shen Jian walked over and took back the shovel he had thrown away. Then he ignored the rotten ghost and continued walking inside. The content on the white lantern is naturally not like this. Starting from the third sentence, it is his modified version, but the ghost here does not even dare to question it. I would rather bury myself with doubts than disobey the words he said. It can be seen that the minister of the Ministry of Finance is also a violent and powerful person in his mansion. To deal with such a being, it would be difficult to pry his mouth open using ordinary methods. Shen Jian pondered for a moment. Searching for ghosts and gods in the mansion. Go deeper and deeper. The candlelight on the white lantern is even more dazzling. Even if you don't look at it, the white candlelight will shine on the ground, revealing the ghostly symbols and characters engraved on it. Shen Jian glanced at it. The deeper you go, the more strange things happen. In the darkness, an obviously different red lantern seems to be coming towards you, looming. Ghost character text display. Changes also occurred. In the dark, a ray of red candlelight emerged. The candlelight was very dim. Faintly, the outline of a black shadow can also be seen. It looked like someone was patrolling with a red lantern. Shen Jian glanced at the contents of the next white lantern, grinned, and began to make up random things. Then, something more terrifying happened. The red candles in front began to go out, and the surrounding area fell into darkness. Hear this. In the darkness, a ghost dressed as a butler slowly revealed his fangs. When the lights go out, it means the supernatural attack has begun. The butler ghost smiled ferociously, blew out the red lantern in his hand, and was about to rush forward and tear Shen Jian to pieces. However, the next second, he heard Shen Jian pause for a moment and then said, "The red lantern went out, and then, it lit up again." Butler ghost. Why? Bright again? What operation? He did not dare to hesitate, exhaled a breath of yin qi, and lit the red lantern. The wick of a red lantern is lit by yin qi. Without yin qi, the lantern cannot be lit. And the ignited yin qi is difficult to recover in a short period of time. It can be said, it would take him at least 2 days to make up for this bite. The butler's ghost eyes showed a bit of pain. Before he could react, Shen Jian said quietly, "And then, the red lantern went out again." Butler ghost? He looked at Shen Jian in confusion. "I wanted to take a look at the ghostly symbols on the white lantern, but I really didn't have the guts. All we can do is comply." Then, he blew out the red lantern again. The red lantern is on again. Butler ghost. He couldn't hold himself any longer. "You did it on purpose. Is this really not a joke?" Although Lord Shangshu's bad taste is to play tricks on intruders who come secretly, they are not included in this. But now, it seems like he is playing tricks on them. "Are you sure this intruder isn't talking nonsense?" The butler ghost hesitated. Hesitated. In the end, I was deceived. According to Shen Jian, while blowing out the red lantern, he exhaled yin qi and lit it, repeatedly. Until there was a plop. The butler ghost was exhausted and fell into a short sleep. See this. Shen Jian kindly installed the other party so that he would not end up living on the street. Do it all. He has appeared in front of the largest building in Shangshu Mansion. The strongest yin qi reaction in the mansion comes from this. No doubt. This building is the residence of the Minister of Household Affairs. Shen Jian glanced away. In one of the wing rooms. The lights are bright. On the large bed, a man and 2 women were having a hearty duel. Shen Jian. His eyes looked very different. I didn't expect that I would encounter such a scene. Mad. You didn't even call me when you were having a party. Can't bear it. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 753. In the wing room. A middle-aged man with a relatively strong build and who looked to be in his 40s shivered and lay on the bed. There were 2 female ghosts beside him, one on the left and one on the right, also lying on the man's chest. "Sir, you are so powerful," one of the female ghosts said coquettishly. "Isn't that right? Your Excellency is the Minister of the Ministry of Finance, one of the 6 tribes. He has a status above 10,000 people, and he is also a legendary ghost and god. He is not comparable to those silver wax gun heads outside. Hear this. With beauties in his arms, Shangshu Hube was even more satisfied. No man doesn't like women's compliments, especially when it comes to a man's dignity, and he will not allow others to belittle him. Ah! Just thinking about it? The female ghost who had made a sound suddenly screamed. Others were shocked. The minister of Hube also grimaced and frowned. What's going on? You're yelling. Sir, I just saw a dark shadow passing by outside our room. The female ghost pointed tremblingly at the door. Could it be a guard? Another female ghost asked carelessly. No, that's not right. The black shadow was floating. What I saw was a body being hung up. But when I wanted to take a second look, the black shadow disappeared again. The minister of Hube's frown deepened. It sounded like he had hit something dirty. Even in the imperial capital, ghosts seeking death would come out to scare people from time to time, but that was on the streets. And where is this place? It's his mansion. Not to mention the supernatural white lantern he set up outside. Just getting close to him without being noticed by him was already unimaginable. He is a ghost. Even when he was doing exercises to increase the number of descendants, his supernatural perception was still functioning normally. If someone approached, he would not react. To sum up, it seems that he is hallucinating. Think of this. He comforted him and put the matter behind him. Moment. Ah! Ah! There's a ghost. 2 terrifying screams were heard. The Secretary of the Ministry of Finance was excited, and his supernatural perception swept the entire audience. But he found nothing. He only saw the 2 bed partners beside him hugging each other, with frightened expressions and trembling bodies. Sir, I saw it just now. The other female ghost said in a scared tone. What did you see? I saw a hung body wandering outside our wing. Really, sir, we all saw it? Hear the description. The minister of Hubu stood up immediately. Opened the door. It was extremely peaceful outside, and there was no dirt at all. Just when he was about to reprimand the 2 women for joining forces to scare him, he suddenly caught a glimpse of blood-red palm prints one after another on the door. That moment, the scalp of the Secretary of the Ministry of Finance exploded violently. Damn it! What the hell is going on? Is there really something dirty? There was a chill in his heart, and he felt goosebumps rising. A bit of horror flashed in his eyes. He was certain that before he entered the wing, there was no such thing on the door. Combined with the descriptions of the 2 women, it seemed that there was really a hang dirty thing wandering outside the wing that he didn't know about. How is this so damn possible? He is a ghost. His supernatural sense was so keen that he could detect how many ghosts there were in the entire mansion, but he really didn't notice anything wrong just now. If it wasn't a prank, then the only answer was, the ghost wandering outside the wing had a higher level of terror than him. And he is very good at concealing aura and shielding perception, otherwise it would be impossible for him not to notice anything abnormal. Think of this possibility. The entire face of the Secretary of the Ministry of Finance turned green. Where the hell did this come from? He currently only knew of one person in the entire Qing kingdom who had this kind of ability, and that was Emperor Qing. But Emperor Qing would not go to his mansion in the middle of the night and hang himself to scare him. Can't stay here any longer. If I stay any longer, I don't know what will happen. Before you know the origin of this inexplicable ghost wandering in his mansion, staying away from the other party's wandering place is the best choice. Immediately, Shangshu Hube turned around and prepared to leave with his 2-bedroom concubine. However, just as he turned around, a horrifying scene happened. 2 white silk threads hung down from the beams of the bed, and the 2 corpses were hung on the bed, swinging like a 1,000-year-old man. These two corpses were clearly his concubines. Thump. The Shangshu of the Ministry of Finance's legs and feet went weak, and he almost collapsed on the ground. He leaned hard against the door, supporting his body so as not to fall. But the fear in my heart could no longer be increased. Died. Within the range of his perception, the two concubines who had been talking to him just now were hanged directly from the beams. And he also blocked the door, eliminating the possibility of dirty things entering. In this situation, the murderer can solve everything quietly. What does he want to do? What is he doing? How did he do it? You have this kind of strength, and you are playing with me here. My mind was shaken for a moment. The Secretary of the Ministry of Finance did not hesitate, turned around and ran away. He planned to first gather the chess pieces he had placed in every corner of the mansion. None of the chess pieces he carefully selected has a terrifying level lower than that of the top Ghost King. Once they are all gathered together, the movement caused will be huge. As long as the Imperial Guards are attracted, it will basically be safe. With this thought, the Minister of Revenue ran faster and faster. Soon, a red light suddenly appeared. It was a red lantern, held by a black shadow. See this. The Minister of the Ministry of Finance was very happy. Because the one holding the red lantern is his butler. Butler, come here quickly. You are most familiar with the layout of the mansion. Work with me to wake up all the chess pieces in the mansion. Be quick. He shouted. He didn't notice at all that the man holding the red lantern seemed to be a little different from his butler. Hear sounds. The corners of the mouth of the shadow holding the red lantern seemed to slowly open. Just point to a location with your hand. Shangshu Hube didn't hesitate, and immediately changed direction and ran in the direction where the red lantern was lit. Not long after, Shangshu Hube seemed to have discovered something was wrong. Huh? Isn't that direction the location of the wing? Butler, which way are you taking? There is dirt in that place. While talking, he glanced at the figure holding the red lantern with his peripheral vision. Faintly, he seemed to see something like a rope on the figure's wrist holding the lantern. A bit of surprise flashed across his face. Did the old housekeeper have a rope on his wrist? Is the old housekeeper that tall? Is the old butler's figure so well proportioned and perfect? Three doubts appeared in the mind of the Minister of the Ministry of Finance. The next moment, his face froze. Because only then did he realize that the figure holding a red lantern seemed not to be the old housekeeper, but a stranger he didn't know at all. But the red lantern, he gave one to the old housekeeper. Where is the second one? Who is this person? At this moment, Shangshu Hube was swept away by unparalleled fear. The hanged ghost wandering in the wing, the strange ghost carrying a red lantern, this was obviously his mansion, but at this moment, it became extremely strange. It was so strange that it frightened him. Not even ghost-level strength can give him a sense of security. He stopped. The figure holding the red lantern also seemed to feel something. Also stopped. Under the swaying of the red candlelight, he slowly turned around, revealing an unfamiliar face. It was a man who looked extremely young, with black hair and dark eyes, a blood-stained hemp rope tied around his wrist, and a charming smile on his face. Ah! I've been discovered. Tobe Shangshu's pupils widened little by little, and for the first time in his life, he felt a fear that was more real than death. Because he knew that face. Back then, in that small town, when the envoy broke into the main entrance of the palace and forcibly captured Prince Li, he stood not far away, watching all this with the other 6 officials. He would never forget that wanton face. Now, this figure holding a red lantern was the original envoy. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 754. Fear. Unparalleled fear eroded. Looking at Shen Jian, who slowly turned around in the beating red candlelight and revealed his true face, Shang Shuhube showed extreme palpitations on his face and felt his heart shaking violently uncontrollably. Yaoshan, a newly promoted envoy from the 4th-ranked town, used a small criminal to kill a royal prince, causing the Qing kingdom to lose all face. He became the most wanted criminal in the Qing kingdom. Now, the other party dared to appear openly in front of him, the Minister of Household Affairs, and even hanged his 2-room concubine. What was the difference between this and breaking into someone else's home to rob and kill someone in public? The feeling of shame disappeared in a flash. Instead, there was fear, panic. Thinking of everything that had happened in the wing before, he still didn't know that Shen Jian had already broken into his mansion at an unknown time, killed his housekeeper, and swaggered to his gun room to watch the battle. But he didn't notice anything was wrong at all. This shows that Shen Jian's level of terror is far higher than he imagined. He even doubted whether Shen Jian had reached the same level of world-destroying ghosts and gods as Emperor Cheng. If that were the case, it would be difficult for him to escape. You are so brave. Under the Emperor's feet, you dare to break into the Shangshu mansion and commit murder. Shangshu of the Ministry of Finance kept retreating. The tone seemed a bit harsh. What's wrong? I just broke in. What can you do to me? Shen Jian grinned and raised his brows indifferently. It seems to be saying, if you have the guts, come and hit me. If you don't hit me, you will be your grandson. Minister of the Ministry of Finance. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. This governor doesn't seem too serious. First she hid outside the wing pretending to be a hanger to scare him, and now she's pretending to be his housekeeper. It's so humming evil. This faint sense of familiarity. He thumped. This seems to be a trick he uses. What he likes most is to use this method to control the death of the intruder, so as to achieve a pleasing and strategizing posture. And what Shen Jian did today was another wicked way to play. It's just that the victim has become him. There was a moment of silence. The Minister of Hubei growled, "What do you want to do? If you want to come to me to cancel the wanted order, I can't do it. Your Majesty personally ordered this. I can't do it alone." He and Shen Jiansu did not know each other, and there was no grudge between them. Then the only thing he could think of was the wanted order. I came to you for a simpler matter. Shen Jian's eyes flashed and he said word by word, "Do you have anything to say in defense for the fact that you and the prince conspired to poison the queen and frame the eldest princess?" As soon as these words came out, the face of the Secretary of the Ministry of Finance changed greatly. With a grimace, he was completely unable to control his mood swings, and his mind was filled with huge waves. Damn it, are you from the queen? No, yes, you are from the eldest princess. The next moment, the Minister of Household Affairs looked ferocious. The white lanterns throughout the mansion suddenly glowed with dazzling candlelight. Countless supernatural words that were like ghostly symbols seemed to come to life, squirming, intertwining, and forming new meanings. Very good, Her Royal Highness the eldest daughter is well hidden. I should have thought that when the eldest daughter of the Emperor was imprisoned in the prison, and you walked out of the prison, with the ability of the eldest daughter of the Emperor, how could you and I, there is no intersection. The Minister of Revenue said coldly. He knew that things could no longer be good. If Shen Jian only broke into his mansion for other reasons, then it would be okay if he respectfully satisfied the other party's demands, but if he came for other people, the result would be different. Framing the queen and blaming the eldest princess is a secret that only a few people know. Once it is leaked, not only will he be dismissed, but even the prince will be affected. Originally, His Majesty already disliked the Crown Prince very much because of Prince Li's incident. If the Queen was publicly poisoned again, the Crown Prince's position would be over. Your Majesty the Governor, you have hidden your secrets well enough. I did wonder at the time whether you might be related to the eldest daughter of the Emperor, but your act of killing Prince Li was too shocking and not in line with her behavior at all. Style, I didn't connect you just now. Is Her Royal Highness the eldest daughter really so heartless that she needs to compete with her own brother for the position of prince, and for this reason, she would not hesitate to send her brother to prison? The Minister of Hubei shouted loudly. Heartbroken. Hear the words. Shen Jian tilted his head and said sarcastically, then when you put the blame on her, why didn't you consider that she is the prince's sister and your granddaughter? Nonsense, she is a princess, what's the use of being talented? This throne does not belong to her in the first place, but she is unwilling to give up all this. She puts pressure on her brother in everything, and sent her to prison just to make her reflect. What you did? Shen Jian shook his head. I can't listen anymore. I'm too lazy to talk nonsense to you anymore. You don't deserve to hear it. Haha, why do you think I was talking nonsense to you just now? I have just erupted my own supernatural fluctuations. In less than an hour or 3, the Imperial Guards will arrive. By then, you, a sinner of the Qing Kingdom, will be sentenced to death. If you apologize, you will die without a burial place. The Secretary of the Ministry of Finance also broke into tears and laughed sinisterly. He knew that he was probably no match for Shen Jian, and there was no chance of winning in a supernatural confrontation, but if he could only hold off for a while, he was still confident. Thanks to the supernatural writings he had posted in the mansion in the past, he had now taken them all back. In a short period of time, he could gain the upper hand even against several ghosts and gods. Do you feel that your head is a little out of place? Shouldn't your head be broken? The Secretary of the Ministry of Finance said with compassion. The horror spread throughout the place. Countless lines of vivid text squirmed, turning into sentences like "Isn't your head broken?" and rushed into Shen Jian's head. Replace it with an ordinary person. At this time, I had already felt an indescribable pain, and I felt like I had a splitting headache, as if my head would split open in the next second. This is an unexplainable supernatural attack. Unable to resist, unable to parry, I can only passively bear the effects of these words. However, Shen Jian just stood there, neither retreating nor dodging. Let these words have their effect on him. The Minister of Household Affairs was overjoyed at first. Then his expression changed drastically. Because he saw Shen Jian showing a sarcastic and mocking look towards him. He also said very calmly, "Are you ready? Minister of the Ministry of Finance. What are you ready for? It's his turn now, how the hell can you draw a card midway?" That's what I thought. In an instant, Shang Shitob felt an indescribable pain, which acted directly on his head. He had an intuition that his head would explode. Boom! His head really exploded. The left side of the brain was covered in blood and flesh. This moment, the Minister of Revenue was confused. Because he discovered that the source of the supernatural force that exploded his head seemed to be his supernatural effect. Damn it! Isn't this the supernatural power he unleashed on Shen Jian? Why was he the one who got hurt? Bounce. Damage transfer? Or is it a supernatural conspiracy? Etc. Even if it is a supernatural attack such as rebound or damage transfer, the body must have experienced a supernatural attack before it can rebound, right? Subconsciously. Shang Shuhube looked at Shen Jian, who was standing there without any injuries. He suddenly felt tired. Cheating will lead to a bad death. No fun, turn it off. He couldn't imagine that his maximum supernatural attack had no effect on the man in front of him. Instead, a piece of his own head exploded. It was so obvious that he was cheated. Why didn't anyone block his account? What else are you playing with? The Minister of Hube's mentality was a bit broken. At this time, Shen Jian also belatedly tilted his head, making a click sound, twisting his joints, grinning at the corner of his mouth, showing a strange smile. It turns out that you are over, so fast, brothers and sisters, don't you, so happy. But, you cursed me to death. Isn't that too rude? Let me take a look. Your body seems a little strange. Why is your head round? Shouldn't it be flat? This is not normal, but it doesn't matter. I'm a quack and I can help you recover. Shen Jian stepped forward with a dark smile. He was holding a black steel rod in his hand, with more than a dozen huge six-pointed stars twinkling on the rod, exuding a scarlet luster. The black steel rod was dragged underground, making a cold sizzling sound. The head of the Secretary of the Ministry of Finance exploded. He didn't care about the heroic words just now. Turn around and run. Boom. Within a tenth of a second, Shen Jian's body spanned more than 10 meters, and he hit the Minister of the Ministry of Finance on the face with a stick. A huge force came. Shangshu Hube was like a cannonball, smashing through several walls and being buried under rubble. No, it's impossible. He struggled to pull away the stone and lay on it helplessly. At this time, his face had been sunken into the front door, and even his eyes were knocked out. Half of his body was limp and unsupportable due to the huge force of the stick just now. He could only lie on his back. He stared at the devil-like figure walking towards him. A look of complete despair. No. Impossible, this is impossible. The Minister of Revenue roared, his voice vague and intermittent. The twisted face with all the features ravaged together was full of disbelief. A stick. With just one stick, he was knocked to pieces by the ghost god. What a joke. Even if you are a ghost, you cannot violate the laws of this world. What ghost has such power? Is this horse a ghost? In terms of strength, ghosts are stronger than humans, but they are only a few times stronger. It may be possible to use supernatural powers to break a mountain with one punch, but it is impossible to do it simply by using strength. However, Shen Jian's blow with the stick just now knocked out all the gall in him. He is the body of a ghost. What kind of power would it take to destroy his body's ecological balance with one stick? To put it bluntly, according to the power of the stick, even if Shen Jian doesn't have supernatural powers, he can kill a ghost and god forcefully. Is this a humming ghost? Your painting style is different from ours. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Bulletin Chi Gua. Chapter 755. This moment. Shangshu Hube lay weakly on his back on the rocks, his face full of despair. Even though he has the body of a ghost, he is not invincible. With the power of a stick that can destroy the ecological balance of his body, all supernatural powers are imaginary. Others will not compete with you, but simply choose to defeat all methods with one force. He even doubted where Shen Jian came from. This power system is so humming abnormal. Fake, all this is fake. Looking at the devil-like figure walking towards him, he kept chanting. Don't want to believe this fact. He knew from the beginning that there was a certain gap between his terror level and Shen Jian's, but he never thought that the gap would be so big. His maximum supernatural attack was ineffective against it and was bounced back, exploding part of the left side of his brain. But the opponent's casual swing of the stick shattered his ghostly body. Yin energy leaks, supernatural beings lose control, and the body breaks apart. Any of them appearing on a ghost may lead to sleep and death. Now, he has mastered all three. He didn't panic on the spot, so he was lucky. But there is no longer any power to parry. He could only watch as Shen Jian came to him and looked at him condescendingly. The other side. Seeing the confused look of the Secretary of the Ministry of Finance, Shen Jian also sympathized with him and comforted him. Xiahua, you can't do this. Don't you just want to know whether all this is true or false? I have a way. Help you identify it. What? Hear this. The Secretary of the Ministry of Finance said subconsciously. The next second, Shen Jian raised his foot and stepped on the crippled but still conscious leg. Ah! A scream sounded. Shen Jian's voice also followed. Look, the pain you feel now, doesn't it really exist? Minister of the Ministry of Finance. He looked at Shen Jian as if he was in a panic. Grass. I thought you could say some philosophical words to distinguish reality from illusion, but I didn't expect it to be a physical method. You are a real dog. Not even the king of hell can torture people like you. That's enough. Scholars cannot be killed without humiliation. If you have the ability, kill me. I want to see if the eldest daughter of the emperor can bear the consequences of killing a first-rank minister and a sixth-rank minister. The minister of Hugh roared. The two eyes sunken into the flesh showed a malicious expression. If he doesn't die today, Shen Jian will be the one who dies. And killing him would have even more serious consequences. At the feet of the emperor, a six-bulletin minister died at home for no reason. This incident was big enough to alarm Emperor Qing for a thorough investigation. By then, no matter how well Shen Jian hid it, he would be traced to the emperor's eldest daughter. Shen Jian watched quietly. Eyes flashed. So, you are not going to speak anymore? Why bother? You are following the crown prince and her royal highness the princess. How did you get to the position of minister with such a stubborn mind? Did you go through the back door? The Secretary of the Ministry of Finance sneered and said, you are obsessed with it, right? You are a wanted criminal in the Qing kingdom, and you haven't chosen to join the prince's lineup. Do you think you can take the position of prince by supporting the eldest daughter of the emperor? Don't be delusional, even if you are the emperor. Envy Dang is truly gifted and has become the crown prince of the Qing kingdom, and she does not have the ability to help you lift your wanted order. Until now, he still believed that Shen Jian sided with the emperor's eldest daughter because the emperor's eldest daughter promised that the wanted order could be lifted. The only one who can do all this is the emperor of the Qing kingdom, and this position cannot be occupied by the eldest daughter of the emperor. You can still turn around now. As long as you join the prince's side, I can guarantee that you will become the prince the day I become the emperor of Qing. I will personally issue an order to lift your wanted order. Shen Jian grinned. Unfortunately, my goal is not to be a prince. Compared to a male emperor, I prefer a queen who wears a dragon robe, is majestic to the world, and rules over a country. The queen has developed a great plan, you deserve it. As for the next step, let's turn your loyalty to the prince into foolish loyalty to Her Royal Highness the eldest princess. The words fell. Shen Jian took out something from his body. It was an old newspaper stained with blood. It was obtained from the copy of the game where Shen Jian first came to the real world. Its supernatural effect is very simple and crude, modifying other people's memories. Shen Jian started to mutter while writing, how to change it. Now, the first point, I am actually loyal to Her Royal Highness the Princess. The reason why I became the prince's accomplice is to collect evidence that is enough to bring down the prince, even if I accompany you for this myself. Operation Code 9527. Second point, Mr. Shen, the governor of the town, has both moral character and humility. He is the best candidate for my grandson's husband. I will give him all my family property over the years. The third point, I have a little known hobby, which is to give my wife to others to play with. Cross out the entire thing. Hear this. Minister of the Ministry of Finance. He was dumbfounded. He stared at Shen Jian with his eyes wide open and dumbfounded. Although he didn't understand what Shen Jian was doing, he vaguely knew that if Shen Jian didn't kill him, he would definitely force him to become one of his own. The other party wrote a lot of shocking information on that old newspaper. Taking it all together, he came to a conclusion: this man wanted to distort his cognition, modify his memory, and turn him into one of his own. Think of this possibility. Shang Shuhube's face turned purple. His face darkened. Once this first piece of information is modified successfully, the prince is finished. As a member of the prince's party, he is the biggest supporter behind the prince. He knows best what the prince has done. It can be said that as soon as he rebels, the prince's downfall is inevitable. As for the second article, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Grandson-in-law, what's so special? It turns out that you are not the partner recruited by the emperor's eldest daughter, but her concubine. But are you too thick-skinned? It's so shameless to say such self-proclaimed things. Just thinking about it? Shen Jian stopped writing at the same time. Grabbing the blood-stained ghost newspaper, he pressed it on the face of the Minister of Revenue. In an instant, the ghost newspaper blended into his face and then disappeared. Not long after, Shang Shuhube opened his eyes. The look he looked at Shen Jian had become different. It was an expression of satisfaction as one looked at his grandson-in-law. Master Shangshu, are you awake? Shen Jian smiled slightly. Wake up, don't blame me, I just want to test Xiao Shen whether you are really loyal to His Highness. I am very satisfied with your performance. I recognize this grandson-in-law. The Secretary of the Ministry of Finance also smiled brightly. See this? Shen Jian narrowed his eyes. There is no need to question the supernatural power of ghost newspapers. Unless there are obvious problems with the other party's logic, they will not notice that there is a problem with their own memory. And even if it is noticed, the other party has no way to counterattack, let alone remove the ghost newspaper. And everything he just modified was entirely based on the position of the Minister of Revenue. The identity of an undercover agent is the least likely to cause logical loopholes. Even in the memory of the Secretary of the Ministry of Finance, there is still the fact that the Queen was framed and the eldest princess was framed, but under the supernatural influence of the ghost newspaper, the other party would automatically think that this was a cruel trick in order to completely gain the crown prince's power. Trust. Master Shangshu, how can you convince me that you are loyal to His Highness? Shen Jian asked. Hear the words. The Minister of Household Affairs came over and said, Zhuangsu, long live the eldest princess. Shen Jian. Xiao Shen, tell me quickly. Did your granddaughter send you here with a plan to move the prince? I have already collected evidence that is enough to bring down the prince. Now all I need is His Highness's nod to make the prince step down completely. The Minister of Revenue said excitedly. Shen Jian said slightly curiously, if the prince is exposed, you, the Minister of Household Affairs, will be the first to bear the brunt. Aren't you afraid? It's what I should do to serve His Highness. Besides, I actually don't do much. At most, I make suggestions. The most serious thing is to frame the Queen. But I understand your Majesty. Now, he no longer cares about the harem. Even you all, he basically let it go when it came to the marriage between the prince and the princess. It can be said that except for the little power in his hands, he was basically a loner. Framing the Queen can be big or small, but Emperor Qing's attitude is likely to put me in jail, which is equivalent to nothing. Hear this. Shen Jian was thoughtful. Has Emperor Qing always been like this? Of course not. When my daughter, the former empress, was still alive, Emperor Qing was actually a qualified emperor. At that time, he was just a ghost. Until one day, Emperor Qing was promoted and became the legendary destroyer. A world-class ghost and god, his whereabouts became more and more unpredictable, and his attitude towards the court became more and more laissez-faire. Now, I am gradually freeing myself from the shackles of the court. I haven't been to court for a while, even 2 years. The secretary of the Ministry of Finance said mysteriously. Some people are saying that the more His Majesty lives, the more he looks like a ghost and a Buddha. Shen Jian. Shen Jian was stunned. Buddha. There were ripples in his heart. Because he had guessed earlier that if Emperor Qing really wanted to advance to the world-destroying level of ghosts and gods, the only two people who were qualified to point out this path were Mengpo and Ksidagarba. At the moment, he seemed certain of the answer. Soon, Shen Jian withdrew his gaze. Suppressed the chaotic thoughts. Then he said, the Queen's plan to raise the Queen has begun. It's time for the Prince's downfall. The next step will be left to you. I hope that at tomorrow's court meeting, I will see you, Lord Shangshu, take the lead in reporting the Prince. Don't worry, the Prince's downfall is certain, I said it, no one can stop him. Shangshu Hu patted his chest and assured. He has the heroic ambition of having been undercover for 3 years and 3 years, and finally closing the net. End of chapter.